I'm sorry, buddy. I really don't know what happened there with the connection. And the frustrating thing now is that we've lost the entire video, and that was an hour worth of really great stuff. So it's very annoying. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand this connection thing. I'm so annoyed because now when it cuts off suddenly like that, you lose the entire video. So we've done an hour of a show and just lost that entire video by it just suddenly cutting. I don't know who to kill, but there's somebody I wish I could kill for this sort of thing.
Don't you have somebody recording it?
No, because nowadays the way it works with IG, it kind of self-records. Do you understand? And you can just press at the end of it, you just press whatever, and within seconds, it's all live and whatever. So it looks like I might have to start doing backup of the backup myself now. The recording. So frustrating, honestly. I mean, that was such a brilliant session that we've been having. But just before we got cut off, and I'm hoping we won't get cut off again, we were just talking about, if I remember correctly, God, I'm getting
what the technical director needs, tools.
Yes. What are the tools that the technical director needs, from whether it be equipment to staffing to knowledge to information?
So you need a broad, like I said, just to recap, you need a broad knowledge or a working knowledge of the equipment that is available in your environment, in your space. It's always good to read up on the more exotic things and to expand your knowledge, but at the very minimum, you should know the equipment that you have that's available in the area or the space you're working and the limitations that they have. Know which companies carry what equipment, and you need to know how to get the best deals. Then you need to understand time. You need to understand how equipment is set up. What does the guy that is setting up the screens need? So you need that when you're bringing in screens, you also know you're bringing in support systems for the screens, and you need to oversee what they're doing, because sometimes they don't brace the screens well enough, and so you have the situation where the screens are on the stage and people are dancing on the stage and you can see the screens, shaking, wobbling. Yeah. So as a technical director, you need to know these things. You need to understand cable runs. Based on the shape of the room, the size of the room, how many meters of cable are going to be required, so you have a situation where the people actually bring enough cable to run the cable from the screen to wherever you have your equipment set up or your front of house set up. And then I was talking about man management, because oftentimes it's a technical director that you want talking to your technical teams. The technical director is supposed to have man management skills. You should be patient enough to understand the limitations we have in this environment, but you should also be knowledgeable enough to troubleshoot, so you're not relying on the brain power of the people that are setting up your equipment. Because a lot of times people work a certain way based on how they know how to work. But when you understand what they're trying to achieve, sometimes you can find a more efficient way of getting the same thing, done. I've never understood why, most production teams like working in relay. So I will go and bring and come back. Then the next person will go and bring. Can you not all go at once? Can you not set these things up simultaneously? Must we wait for this to be done before we can start? And so sometimes something as simple as, that sort of troubleshooting, you have a technical director, because if you don't understand what they're trying to do, you can't intervene when they're wasting your time. So that's what a technical director should be able to do from a standpoint. You should understand your field. You should know the equipment. You should know the people, know the players, have enough of a personality to to gain to have a rapport, but also they should respect you enough to do what you say. And I'll tell you this: when people know that you know what you're talking about, it's easy for them to respect you in the professional, field. That's why knowledge is important.
So, as a veteran in the industry, what challenges would you say a technical director or companies such as yours face both from event planners, show producers, whoever it might be, as well as clients? What are the kind of challenges that the common everyday or unusual challenges that you face?
Um, the first, the biggest challenge I think we have in the event space that I face as a technical director is what I will call um, FDFR, the FDFR syndrome, frequent departures from reality. That's the phenomenon where you have clients or event planners who try to make decisions that defy the laws of space and time, trying to fit 1,000 people in a 500-seater, space,
Mm-hmm.
trying to collapse 12 hours of work into 2 hours of setup time. That's the reality, and trying to cut corners. So they're trying to get you to work with substandard equipment or with the absence of certain safety checks, which
Mm-hmm.
are necessary either for simple health, safety, and environment, or for the practical reality of what it is you're trying to achieve, saying that there's no budget, we can't afford it, but we
Mm-hmm.
trust you and we know you can make it happen. And so what I have learned over time, and sometimes um, at uh, uh, with an event that went sideways, is when you know what the right thing to do is, always stand your ground on the right thing, doing the right thing. Now, I will say it wasn't always like this. Starting out in the industry, you had to sort of sometimes, just do the event, hope for the best, because nobody knew you, so you couldn't be throwing your weight around saying, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do this. It was okay, bye bye.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always somebody who's going to do it or do it for cheaper.
Yeah.
But when the powerful thing about a good name is that a good name is not for nothing. Once you have a name that you can call good, it
Mm-hmm.
works both ways. One, you have to protect it, and two, you have to use your credibility to stand your ground when you're working with clients. Now, many times clients simply do not know. So it's hard to always hold them responsible. But event planners and event producers really have no excuse, because many times the event producer knows. I'm going to touch on the topic of health and safety, because that's an area
Definitely.
that is very
Mm-hmm.
critical. Health and safety, whether you're talking about sanitary or measures that need to be put in place in a post COVID-19, or the basic structural reliability, you're making sure the equipment you're using is fit for purpose, not setting up trusses that you're only securing two of the four spigots that need to be secured, simply because they're not there. There's never fallen before, so it should be okay. That nothing will happen in Jesus' name
In
approach
Jesus' name, bro.
to
God
doing
forbid.
events. It's a very wrong approach, and a lot of event planners know it's wrong, but they're caught in a position where they are pretty much sold into the client and not able to stand their ground. And so that becomes a problem for me, because I'm being asked to manage situations that really should not be happening.
So let me ask you this question, because you see, you said you developed a reputation that you can say you're standing your ground. Okay, so I don't know, somebody's asked you to do something, either it's the client or it's the planner, and you're setting up, it's the middle of the event, you're possibly 3 hours away from the event going live. They've asked you to do something and you say no. How does that work? Could you not potentially be messing up somebody's event? Are you not potentially
Oh,
also putting your own reputation at risk, because you are? And also, how do you stand? How do you actually stand your ground? Because everything could become a disaster by you simply saying, sorry, I'm not doing it. My reputation is too important to me.
So great question, and it has happened before. Now, usually, you have to make a judgment call. Now, a judgment call in the middle of event is either because of a previously unrecognized or undetected reality, that is, you didn't see it, and that could be down to a lack of experience. Now, when I say lack of experience, it doesn't mean it's a fault in your hand. It's simply like you've never encountered that thing before, so you didn't know to anticipate it. And that's where experience comes in. The more experienced you are, the more things you can anticipate, and so you can see far down the road and say, just in case you're planning to do this, I'm not going to do that, and so they're not taken by surprise. So there is a judgment call. Now, when I say judgment call, most things that are being asked to do are either going to come down to a factor of time, cost, and the time or the cost is going to impact on quality. So the first thing is time. Is there enough time to do it? If not, what is the downside of it not being done properly? Will it risk the event? Will it risk life? Now, if it's not going to risk life, but it's going to risk the event, then you can let the person know, if you do this, this is a likely thing that will happen. For instance, there's supposed to be a video that is shown during the event, and they don't bring the video until the event has started, and then 2 minutes, 5 minutes before the event is supposed to start, they bring you the video on a flash drive. You have not seen it, you don't know what it looks like, you haven't been able to vet it, you don't know whether it's been formatted. Now at that point, they say, you have to play the video, this is the video, they just brought it in. At that point, you can say, no, I'm not playing the video, I'm sorry, because I can't risk it. Depending on the kind of event, that is my my go-to position. So if I'm running a show that is like an award ceremony or a fashion show or something that is very specific in terms of timeline, it's not happening. I'm not going to show it because I don't know. It's a time bomb. If it's a social event, I will tell them, if this video does not play, this is the reason why. And I will have something on standby just in case when we start playing it, it doesn't play. I will also let the MC or the person who is calling the video know that this is the risk. So everybody is sort of aware and we can pivot. So that's a decision, it's a judgment call that I've made. There might be some other, calls that affect the event itself. Somebody bring in a piece of equipment that has not been tried and they want to plug it in for a performance or whatnot. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. It's not happening. And at that point, my answer is no. Now, your decision, how you want to react to it, is entirely your purview, but I have my reasons. Now, in an event where they insist, no, they said you have to do it. Let's say the governor was there. The governor said, this is what you must do, da 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 da. Then my issue will be, okay, disclaimer. In the event that this and this and this happens, this is what happened. And I might decide to do it. So it's always going to be a judgment call based on the circumstances. So it oscillates from a hard no to a caution. But that's going to be a decision you make on time. Sometimes it's a matter of cost. And there have been instances where it's like a 5K, 10K, 20K, 50K. Depending on my relationship with the event planner or the producer, I might decide to bear that cost because I can't interrupt what's happening. There have been instances where there's been no health and safety personnel on ground, and I've called somebody that I know handles it, and I paid them from my pocket. I may get the money back, I may not. But for me, it's too important a thing not to have on ground, and my reputation is at stake. So I make a...
Yeah. Go on. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so I'll make a judgment call based on, the outcome, the damage to the event, to life, property, and then also my good name, which is, at the end of the day, all I have.
SP Cuckoo says, but a dry run and a dress rehearsal takes care of these issues. And they say, I guess they don't do a lot of that in Nigeria. How would you respond to that?
Well, that is true. And in an ideal world, you would have a dry run. And so you know where the gremlins are. You would know where the issues are. So when we do events like a lot of the tech events, we usually have a day for dry run. Because and this is something that the difference between when you work with people that come from an environment where that is common, where that is standard, and when you work in an environment where it is not considered essential. So here, when we're thinking about rehearsal, we normally think of 1 or 2 hours before the show. But usually we have a day. So when you have a day, all of those things are whittled out. You can figure out, oh, this stage is too narrow and a couple of models have fallen off during their turnaround, so let's see what we can do to find a support or to mark it so that they don't fall around. Or the lighting doesn't work for TV, so let's fix that. So there are things you can change because you have a dry run. In this environment, unfortunately, we do not do dry runs very often. They're more the exception than the norm. Now, which brings me to a question somebody once asked me, and that was that are people who come from abroad, expatriates, are they better at doing the event than the indigenous event people? And my answer to them was, well, it's a categorized answer, because in terms of ability, they're not better. Absolutely no. But in terms of focus and attention to detail and precision, they have much more application. And so they're not better in terms of their ability. They are better in terms of their ability, their understanding of capacity and their decision making to focus on where their ability is best suited. So application, they're much better. So we have the same access to knowledge, and in many times I find that some of the indigenous talent that I've worked with, both behind the tech and in front of the tech, are actually better than a lot of the foreign exports that come in. But what I find consistently is that we tend to spread ourselves beyond our capacity.
Yes.
And so we don't apply ourselves with attention to detail. So we are very broad but shallow. You find that the average person that comes, in is very narrow but deep. And so when you ask the guy who is handling the cabling, can you handle the equipment because we're short staffed? He will tell you categorically, I'm sorry, that's not my job. I'm sorry, I can't do that.
Yep.
I will find out if somebody else can do it, but he is not going to get it.
Never.
Here,
Yeah, right.
here, don't worry, I will do it. I will handle it. And you see the guy, sweating over your board. So that's a challenge that we have here. It's not our capacity, it's not our ability, it is our application. And so you find that the foreign person will come in and will stick to a process. They will say, this is the procedure, this is how we set up, how long we need to set up, and why we need this long to set up. And right from the get-go, if you don't agree with that, they're not going to take your job. They will walk away from it without, there's no, please, okay. But here, we're like, no, don't worry, we'll make it work, we'll make it work. And so they adhere to processes. We don't. We rely on off-the-cuff decisions, spontaneous reflex action, and native knowledge. But they apply to processes, and so they can replicate the process every single event with a 80 to 90% accuracy. Whereas with us, we're pretty much hit and miss with a lot of the things we do based on our approach. So if we can get our approach to be a more process-driven application of what we do, you'll find that, we'll have much better results in our events.
Ebony Duke 50 says, following on from your statement about disclaimers for issues arising during an event, do you provide a written disclaimer or is it delivered verbally? If verbally, is it legally binding?
It has to be written. There has to be something, even if it's a text message. Email is preferable for me. I'm old school like that. But even if it's a WhatsApp message, there should be some documentation that this is what I said. It is unlikely that it will go to court, but there must be some. If you're asking me to do something that I have advised against, if I'm going to do it, there must be some documentation that states that I advised against this action, but you insisted. And I need you to acknowledge it before I proceed. I've had to do that on a couple of events, and it's what I do. Sometimes we're on the field. I've had a situation where I've had to get it done, and I've said, just send me a WhatsApp message, send me a text message. I will accept that in lieu of a proper, statement, because we're on the ground and we're moving. But there must be. It's like, the event planner that, during the middle of the after party, your client comes and tells you that bring more champagne, and you say the champagne is finished, and the person says, no, wait, go and buy more, we'll pay you, and then you don't get him to put it in writing. You find that people develop amnesia once the event is gone, and reality sets in on Monday morning.
I go to buy more champagne.
We ordered for champagne. Lie.
Never.
Make sure, tell them, please, sir, have your invoice, just say, please, just sign here. So yeah, get it in writing. If it's not, you see, we have to learn to be professional enough to ask people to put things in writing. Sometimes, please, can you just send me a text message telling me that that's what you asked me to do?
But Yemi, I want to play a little bit of devil's advocate here, because you see, you are a big boy in the industry, okay? You have a solid reputation behind you. So if you go to a big corporate company or a big event planner and says, I'm not doing it, the chances are that they will listen to you out of respect, out of who you are, so on and so forth. Possibly very reluctantly, they will listen to you and possibly go along with what you're saying. But for the average event planner, the average person coming into the business, the person that is just acquiring that kind of knowledge, their first few jobs and stuff like that, how do they manage that situation? Because as you know, in Nigeria in particular, I don't know what it's like with the rest of Africa, but when a client gives you a job, as far as they are concerned, they own your life. And if they tell you to jump, your answer must be how high. So what advice, or how would you tell new people or event planners or technical directors that don't have that power that you have? Because speaking for myself, I would do the same thing as you. You and I, we have done it. Do you understand? But we stood our ground and said we are not doing it.
So one of the first things that I would say is, this comes with client management and understanding who you are. There are people who get to the industry and can be 100% professional. I can afford to go to a space and be 100% professional. That is, I'm not interacting with the client. We're not friends. I'm not, going out of my way to say, ma, sa, this, that. I'm not, trying to do that. When I'm young in the industry, I have to kiss ass. I have to grovel. I have to ma, sa, In fact, I have to ingratiate myself, because that is the only weapon I have, relationship. We live in a very respect-based, catered, society. So respect is a currency that you can exploit. I remember one of the early jobs I did was for Chief Adeojo of Toyota.
Yeah.
Now, Chief Adeojo is a hard-nosed businessman.
Mm-hmm.
He's a he's a he believes in the progress of. He's a nationalist, and he believes in the progress of the Yoruba tribe. If as bad and as as um, despite the fact that Yoruba is not a language that I speak often,
Mm-hmm.
I had to make all my conversations with him in Yoruba. We were in Ilaramoke.
Okay. Yeah.
Because even when I spoke to him in English, he would speak to me in Yoruba. Because for him, you cannot be a Yoruba person and not speak Yoruba. By force, that Yoruba will come out. Now, I was young in the industry,
Mm-hmm.
and so I had to be speaking to him in Yoruba. Where I didn't have the Yoruba word, I'll put the English word. So, I'm allowed to get our light here, so the trust. That is, I had to, because that was the currency I had. But you see, what
Mm-hmm.
happened is because there's no threat. I'm not trying to show myself as being smarter than him. I'm not trying to be more intelligent than him. I'm not trying to say that I'm more my Oyibo and whatnot. That is not a currency that works. I cannot be spending pounds in a naira economy. So I
Yeah.
had to use that currency. And what happened was that, okay, he was respecting me because I recognized who he was, and I was following his. Listen, if you're working with Chief Adeojo, you must speak the language.
Yeah. No.
In
I
fact,
know.
my big sis will tell you, you have to. And that's him. And
Yeah.
he can't. Listen. He speaks English better than the next person, but you see, for him, it's a matter of principle. And once he recognized that, we got along well. But what it also did is that when there were decisions that he wanted to make that I didn't think would work, I would
Mm-hmm.
entreat him. If you ever watched Funke Buckner, or my amazing sister of blessed memory, Ibido, when they're working a space, when the client wants to make a rash decision out of anger, you see them, mommy, I'm a binu, I'm a shifeye, Cherry, I'm a binu, I'm a binu. So, okay, don't worry, ma, handle it. Everything's alright. I'm not worried, I'm not worried. And you see, with that calming, they can say, please, don't allow this man to go up now. Let us change it. Let us do it this way. It will be better.
Mm-hmm.
Marry, am I like it? And with that, they've entreated the person, diffused and de-escalated. But you see, when you
Mm-hmm.
come with Akada, no, we will not allow you. If you do this, no, I am the one in charge. And listen, your life will be short and it will not be sweet. You have to know who you are. And you don't fight a battle that you can't win. And if you know you
Yes.
can't win a battle, then don't make an enemy, make a friend. It's as simple
Mm-hmm.
as that. No
So.
client wants to
Mm-hmm.
feel that they're being belittled or they're being contradicted by the person that they're employing.
Okay. So, in summary, what you're basically saying is that if you're new into the business, you can't do what a veteran can do. You don't have
Absolutely
the. You
not.
can't just go and say no. You have to find another way to
Yeah,
manage that situation
you have
and make
to.
the best of it.
And you need to recognize it from the first get. Listen, one of the things that I found, rookie mistake, you are brought in, your first meeting with the client, first meeting, you've never seen him before. You're taken to his house or his office, his fortress, his place of safety. And then he begins to tell you what he plans to do with his event. So we'll do this, we'll do this. And then your first meeting, first day, you begin to say, no, sir, you cannot do it like that. That is not good. That will not work. It can, listen, trust me. If you continue with that project, you're going to be fighting every day of the week because no client wants to feel inferior with the person that they're bringing in. No matter how ridiculous their plans are, just nod, just say okay, and then by way of suggesting, I was thinking, what if we did this? Listen, anybody who sees a better argument will immediately accept that it's a better argument. Well, most people, considering we're living in the era of Trump, that's not a true statement. So most people, when they see or hear a better argument, they accept it's a better argument, and they will sort of, but you see, it's better for them if they can own the decision. If they can own the decision not to do it right, then it's fine, because you're not there to score points. You're there to do a job. And the more comfortable they can feel with you, the easier it is. So you sort of ease your way into their comfort zone. It is better, especially for social events or when you're dealing with a top man. Understand what they need. Understand where they are. And, work from a standpoint. You're not there to prove a point. You're not there to prove that you know it better than anybody. You're not there to establish your mastery. I'm the best at this, so everybody. No. You're there to do a job. So don't shoot yourself in the foot before you've even started. Understand them, hear them, let them know that you're on their side. You're not there in opposition to them. You're not trying to make yourself the client. Once they get that you're on their side and you are for them, it makes it a lot easier. I've worked with some very difficult people. When I talk about tough individuals, but I recognize that at the end of the day, they want their event to succeed.
So SB Cuckoo says, what's the way forward to get away from doing things the Nigerian way?
Time and pressure.
Explain.
Time. Okay, so the event industry is evolving. We started out doing DIY events, and then the event planners came onto the scene. Event planners came onto the scene, and after some time, they brought in decorators. Actually, decorators came in before the event planners. But the decorators came in, and they started handling an aspect of event planners, which evolved into event planning. You always had the caterers, but the caterers evolved from the Agoyin women, and then they became the caterers who were Agoyin women 2.0, and then they became the Agoyin women 3.0, and then now you have the gourmet chefs and whatnot, who I would say maybe are the Agoyin women 4.0. But it evolved, and then you had hostesses. Ushers never used to be a thing, and then people started using hostesses, and people said, hostesses. MCs never used to be a thing, and then people started bringing hostesses. Before, MC started off as your cousin who spoke well, or your cousin who looked sharp in a suit, and then you started getting celebrity MCs. Now celebrity MCs are a thing. I feel that as the event industry evolves, people become more exposed, because we're very trend driven. Once something becomes a trend, people begin to people begin to accept that this is the way it is done. Now nobody thinks of planning a wedding without bringing in an event planner. And so it's like my event, even if it's your cousin who organized your nephew's birthday party, because we recognize that there's a need for that, and there's also the trend element. So I think as time goes on, the more event professionals insist on doing things professionally, the more these things catch on. And case in point, I think that we have a major challenge post-COVID. Because post-COVID, it's going to be incumbent upon us to ensure that certain measures are taken and certain steps are ensured in line with whatever the post-COVID protocols are and whatever the health and safety requirements are. It is going to be the preserve and the responsibility of every event professional to insist on those measures so that there's nowhere to go where somebody is not going to bother doing it. Right now, we live in an environment where people know that if I ask Mr. Mahogany to do it and he says no, unless this, I can always get somebody else who will agree. The more that opportunity begins to shrink and you find that people are not willing to do it or are insisting upon it, you find that it becomes the norm, and then people begin to do that. We are moving forward, but we're not moving forward fast enough. There's not enough accurate knowledge being circulated in the industry, and there's not enough insistence that people acquire a minimum amount of knowledge before they begin to practice in the industry, even if it is by apprenticeship.
Mm-hmm.
I say this everywhere, every time I'm given the opportunity to say it. Personally, I would not trust any person who calls themselves an event planner who has not been working under somebody for at least 4 years.
True.
Because you simply don't know enough.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to say you cannot execute a good event, but your prowess as an event planner is not when everything is going well. It's how you're able to eliminate problems when they start showing up in such a way that the client doesn't even realize that there was a problem. That is the proof of an event planner.
That's right. You got it spot on. So my final question to you, Yemi, I'd like to thank you for spending extra time because we got cut off. Final question is very much open. It's an open question for you to now talk to people. For the people listening, what advice would you like to give them, whether they're new or they're veteran? What are the key things they need to consider, new or veteran, and how it also relates to your role as a technical director? The floor is open to you. Just say whatever it is you want to say.
Okay, the first thing I would say is, and this is probably the main thing because everything else sort of derives from this. Recognize first and foremost, if you are in the event services industry, you are in a service-oriented industry. The key word is service. You are not in a trade industry. That is, you're not a trader. You are in you're providing a service. It's not a trade. A lot of times we put profit over people. We do things to ensure our bottom line without caring about the people or the impact of what happens after the event. So a lot of you find that people do an event and they don't even ask the client post-event, let's have a post-event review. What did you like? What were you not happy about? How can I improve? What can I do better? You're providing, the service. You're not able to provide the service fully, and you don't volunteer to refund some of the money. There's nothing like, we said we were going to give you 20 ushers. We only brought 15. This is the money back for the 5 ushers that we did not bring. There are little things that you do that show that you are more interested about the service aspect, because it is that understanding about the service aspect and that burden that brings upon you the fact that I'm not going to risk life or property in a venue where I'm overseeing a venue. I'm not going to endanger people by serving stale food, cold food, food that hasn't been properly handled. I'm not going to endanger them by cutting corners on the stage so the stage collapses midway during the show. I'm not going to skimp on having a medical person. The things that I am aware of because I'm looking at people. Does this eat into your profit? Yes, it does. But what it also does is that it gives you credibility and a name. And trust me, in this industry, you're only as good as your name and your last event. And
That's
if
right.
your last event was bad, your name has been damaged, trust me, it affects you going forward. And so, with everything you do, recognize that you're providing a service. Let your clients know that you are service oriented. And then train yourself, study, improve yourself. Look at every event. What could I have done better? What was lacking? And keep improving yourself. Over time, you will build a good name. You will build credibility, and before you know it, you'll be able to look your clients dead in the eye and say, "If you don't do this, I am not going to do that," and smile. But until then, recognize, boy, it's a service industry, and the name of the game is staying in long enough for you to be able to build credibility and a good name.
That's right. I mean, I think that's just a perfect way to finish today's show. I mean, Dr. Yemi, thank you so much for the insight. I'm sure everyone is here. I mean, from the comments and questions, you can see that people have learned a lot today. I mean, I want to say that, I've worked with you, and when I'm working with you, I put on my A game extra. It's true. I've had to do that because any small little thing. Excuse me. No, we can't do that there. That can't work like that. That tape is not straight. Can you cut it? You need to do it straight. Redo it. This, and that. So the funny thing is that I see you kind of as my twin. And why I say that, Yemi, is that there's a lot of things you do, and I see you do it that I do. And my team are like, "Oh my God, he's come again. What's wrong with him? Please, the line is only slightly not straight now. Why is he telling me to undo it?" So I've had vendors.
The problem I have
to me.
The problem I have is that once I've seen something that is wrong, I can't unsee it.
That's it.
I can't unsee it.
It irritates my soul. I'll go to my staff and I say, "No, seriously, did you honestly think that you put that like that and I will not see it or I will accept it?" So but because we do things the way we do things, and I'm sure you have the same thing with your team, and I've seen it, they know already when something hasn't done right. They don't need to wait for you to come and hope that they will get away with it. Already they will call the vendor and say, "Please, we have to change this." When the vendor is trying to do grad, they say, "Change it," because, okay, if you don't want to change it, wait and come and see. Our guy will come and he'll make you change it. So you might as well do it now without him shouting at you, as opposed to him coming to shout at you. So, I mean, that's the beauty about what we do, and to do the kind of job, because our jobs do need to pay attention to detail. If you get the smallest thing wrong, it can affect the entire event.
Yeah.
Do you understand? It can spoil the event. I mean, I've been to people's events where, like you gave the example of a video. Somebody didn't check on a video. They play the video, and you literally see the client just going mad. That you can see it, the empty, everybody starts running. You know how we do in Nigeria. All these staff start running. "Hey, who did this? How could you do that? This and that."
And you see, it is easier to tell the client that the client didn't see the video, that the video didn't play, but they enjoy the rest of the event, than for them to see a bad video that embarrasses them.
Yeah, you're right.
And sometimes what I would tell them is that I can't play it now, but let me check it and we'll play it later if it's okay.
Yeah. Fit it in later on. That's it. Yemi, you are definitely a superstar. I thank you so much for coming on board. I know you're a busy man. You're in demand. I see your pictures on so many different IG live, Zoom live, this live, that live. I don't even know how you have time to do anything. Anyway, COVID is they should take advantage because there's COVID. Because once COVID has finished, they'll not see your brake light. They better understand that.
I hope so. We hope so. We need to get back. We need to do something together again. It's always fun when we can get the team together and have the Eddie Lawan, Uncle Eddie's, the
Yes.
Philippe's, and all the craziness, all the madness, and just put everything and let's see what happens. But we'll get back
And
there.
the beauty about that, what I love about that, and some people will not understand this when they see us work. They'll think that we are chaotic and that we are fighting each other. But they don't understand that when Philippe comes with the production manager, he is fighting his corner. Eddie Lawani is fighting his corner. Show producer, technical director, you say, guys, sorry, you need to come together. It's not going to work.
And the beauty of it is because there's respect, relationship.
That's it.
We don't have to give anybody BS. We don't have to pretend. There's no pretense. There's no politics. Nobody is munching their words. We'll say, listen, I don't think this is going to work because this is this. Tell it like it is. Yes, sometimes things get heated, but we understand what we're doing, and and that's the beauty of being able to work in a professional environment. When you have the right team together, and they're able to come together with the right tools, the effect is exponential.
That's it. So people that are listening to this, okay, there's nothing wrong if you've got a good team and you're fighting each other, so long as there's respect. It's not what you say, it's how you say it a lot of the time. You understand? And you're all trying to get to the end goal, which is a fantastic, amazing event. Clients happy, you're all happy. At the end of it, we all sit down, whether it's a beer or a Coke or whatever it is, we high-five ourselves because we're happy. We know what we did when we did the DFA event. That was that was an event and a half. I mean, that in itself is another a story for another day. But these are the sort of challenges that we have to face. You understand? But we managed to pull it off.
One last thing I will tell everybody there: always tell your clients the truth.
True.
Sometimes, it's not easy to hear. Sometimes you can try and let them down gently. Doesn't mean you should be harsh or rude, but always tell them the truth. Some of the biggest challenges I've had on events are when I'm working for event planners who have not told their clients the truth. And so their clients come with a misguided expectation as to what they're going to find. So always tell them the truth. Let them know this is what. If something cannot be done, don't tell them it can be done.
That's right. Yemi, thank you so much. You see us.
Thank you very much for having me.
We come back and talk about something else. We are good
all
now.
right.
Bye-bye.
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me. It's been a real pleasure. And enjoy. Bye.
Take care, Yemi. Good night.
Good night.
I mean, that's been with Yemi. Yemi is such an amazing person, not just in terms of his skills and what he does, but as a human being. He will go that extra mile for you on a personal level, like Madam Fixit said. He will go that extra level. He will do things for you. He goes above and beyond the call of duty. He's also an expert at what he does. Okay, so if you want that advice, bring him. Even if you don't want to bring him for the full event, you can bring him for consultancy. He will do consultancy for you, give you a bill. He will let you know this is how it works, and so on and so forth. All right. So everybody, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. Sorry we had to come back twice. Internet connection is always an issue. I don't understand what's going on here, but it's been great having you. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned from something. This is why you need to have technical producers or directors like myself or Yemi, show producers, whatever you wish to call us. I thank you for your comments. I thank you for being with us. We're going to be here again on Thursday with Fashion's Finest Africa chat room. Got a great guest coming up. I think Fadan Kola Kudos he's also now the president of Fadan. He's also a top designer in Nigeria. We're going to be talking about everything fashion and about the organization. We'll be back again next week with another great guest. I believe it's going to be Tom West, who's the president of ILIAD, International Live Events Association. You really don't want to afford to miss that. Guys, remember, stay safe. COVID is real. It's out there. Be careful. Take care. And remember, Third Mainland Bridge, for those of you that are in Nigeria that are listening, Third Mainland Bridge closes this weekend, so there's going to be a lot of traffic. So be careful about coming to the mainland or going home. It's going to be crazy, and that's going to be for the next 6 months. What can I say? Anyway, guys, have a lovely evening.